All right, all right. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're sleeping, happy five dreams of your life. Thank you for joining us today at the Rum Lab. I'm super excited to be here to talk about pirates and rum with a new guest. We got here Gareth Noble. Gareth, you can say hi just really quickly if you
Hey
want.
guys, how you doing?
I thought you were gonna say like the pirate, like
Arr!
but the well, really quickly for those who everybody who's joining us for the first time today, to your right in Crowdcast, you have a chat box. I already see some activity, which is great. John, I need to talk to you. So let's see if we can talk about the live after the live stream. If you have any questions, make sure to share them in the very bottom of the area where it says ask questions. We do ask everybody to share the event if you can. Today's agenda is going to be around 30-40 minutes as typical, talking about today's main presentation, 1 or 2 minutes contact information, 15 minutes if we have any questions at our Romo clock. All right, let's deep dive. Today's topic is a history of Pirates and Grog. Our guest is Gareth Noble. He is one of the directors and founders of Pirates Grog Rum. Let's just bring him again. We already saw Greg, but let's have him interact with us.
Yeah, well, a bit more piratey. Arr! We're ready to learn about rum. How do you want to start?
No, well, Greg, tell us a little bit about your life. How did you ended up in the rum world?
So it was rum kind of found me, if I'm totally honest. It was I made a little bit of money when I finished university, and I decided with my girlfriend to go traveling. So we just packed our bags, flew over to California, traveled around there for a couple of months, and we were fortunate enough to get a house sit on a little pirate island called Roatan off the coast of Honduras. At the time, it seemed like a little exotic, hidden place. Obviously, I've come to know it quite well now. But yeah, we got on the flight, flew from California down to Roatan, and we started doing a house sit there for 6 months. And it was during this time we discovered Pirates Grog, which was a new rum brand on the island. So I'd been drinking this every day for quite a few months, and quite enjoying it. And I eventually met the founder, Robert van der Weg, in one of the bars in the West End. And he was trying to ask me if I'd tried the rum, and I was telling him I drank most of his rum. So we sat down and chatted about rum all night and shared stories. And then the next day he took me to his operation that he'd set up on the island and showed me around and showed me how he was making the rum and what he was doing. And it really ignited a fire in me. I really enjoyed the history of rum, like the love and care that goes into it. And obviously the fact that it generally grows, sugarcane grows in the tropics, makes it an attractive place to visit as well. So the whole package of rum really, jumped out at me. And at the time I was a mechanical engineer, and my girlfriend was working in social media. So we spoke to Robert. We said, look, you just keep making great rum. We'll ship it over to England. We'll bottle it. We'll rebrand it. We'll bring out new products, and we'll start distributing it over here in the UK and Europe. And that's really, really where it all started. And yeah, we're on about 6 years now, and from when we came back to the UK, and yeah, things have just gone from strength to strength. We've been on an amazing journey, amazing adventure. It's taken us all around the world. Our rums have luckily won quite a lot of awards, and we've been lucky enough to ride a bit of a boom with the rum industry as well, being a newish company. But you always need a little bit of luck in business, I think.
Yeah, so you said you went from California all the way then to Honduras, and that's where you rented and stayed there for 6 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's yeah, we were lucky. Someone had built a house there, and he was trying to move off the island, so he was just looking for people to stay in this massive house that he'd built in the middle of the jungle. So we were 30 minutes away from a main road. We were on a dirt track. There was just a few shanty huts at the bottom of the drive. So we made friends with all the locals, and we'd go out fishing or scuba diving, and getting into rum, basically.
Well, really quickly, today we shared Greg's interview of the week on the rumlab.com. I'm going to share really quickly here so people. If you go to rumlab.com, you click on his interview, and then you can scroll down and see our questions and his answers. Some are really interesting, for sure. And we'll talk about them today as well. But something that's really interesting is that something that's super interesting about the rum industry is that on my point of view, there's two perspectives, right? There's those loyal rum aficionados or rum drinkers that are here because of the pirate story. Well, there's like three. I'll say three. The pirate story, the history, all this like passion to it. Then you have the tiki industry, right? Then you have those that are like living that culture, living that passion as well. And then you have blank. We're still undecided where we are, which is me, right? Because I like rum in all categories. I like I appreciate the whole category of rum, right? So here we're being able to go and deep dive with you to talk a little bit more about the history of rum related to the pirate world. I want to bring in a little bit. Let me change a slide. And then this is the first questions that we have here. This is a part of a slide that Gareth has sent my way with this image. And then if you can tell us a little bit more, my question here, but you can dive more and talk more in depth, is like, when did rum brands started relating the spirit with pirates and using it as a marketing strategy?
I think the first thing that pops to mind for me is probably the obvious, really. Captain Morgan's with Seagram around 1944 and 45, something like that. They used Captain Morgan, as a figurehead for their brand, which obviously grew into one of the biggest rum brands in the world, albeit the liquid is somewhat questionable, but the branding and the market presence is it's a product that's done amazingly well, and that's all riding off the back of Captain Morgan. I mean, something that obviously we've tried to do differently with Pirates Grog is really it's difficult when you talk about pirates, because over the years different stories have changed what they are and tried to almost turn them into like a kids party gimmick or something like that, when if you actually look at the history of piracy and everything that it entails, it wasn't just bloodthirsty crazy people, although there were a few of those, but in general they were very liberal people. They had some of like the first gay marriage. You had black slaves fighting alongside white sailors as well as equals, and they did a lot of things that were quite forward thinking at the time, but because it was against the establishment, it was viewed, as a negative thing. And throughout history, it's been written by the victors, and so you get a bit of a different story in a lot of cases. So yeah, with brands like Captain Morgan's, they've obviously ridden on the back of Captain Henry Morgan, but we feel it kind of keeps him almost as a bit of a caricature, or it's still quite playful. Where with our brand, we try and promote the more real side of piracy, the kind of the sexy, the sadistic, the crazy, but the nice and empathetic side as well, for the brand.
Well, on my point of view, is that it's interesting. Diageo owns Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
Captain Morgan, it is one of the most selling rums in the world. There's no doubt about that. They also own Zacapa. At the very beginning, they were one of the first brands that invested so much money on the idea of premiumization. Always there existed premium rums, right? But they really invested into this category of like putting into the map, and then it's everybody else or other brands that are strategic. They're like, hey, this is the opportunity to keep on growing and go through that train or go through that ride and hopefully do something better, right? Bringing a juice that's way better too, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting one because, essentially companies like Diageo just have such pulling power. You have something like Ron Zacapa, which you used to occasionally see it on a back bar and, in shops or to buy online. And as soon as Diageo bought it, all of a sudden, it was literally everywhere. It's on every bar, and companies of that size actually have that much power. They can go in with their reps and be like, yeah, you need to have that. And all of a sudden bars that didn't have a premium rum section are now stocking one because they're being advised to buy Diageo. So I mean, what tends to happen in the market is you have smaller boutique brands like ours, come in for a few years before the premiumization really kicks in, and there's quite a lot of us, and you're promoting and pushing your brand and educating people, and really kind of getting people to understand rum better. And when the traction starts to take, then brands like Diageo, Pernod Ricard, those type of companies naturally see it as a business opportunity and buy a big premium brand and chuck it everywhere, and it works. And but they're promoting the same message of like good quality rums, and that it all opens doors, because the more people talking about rum, even if it's not our rum, is good for our business, because at least they're not talking about gin then.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree. And then once you try vodka, let me try another vodka. Once you try a type of beer, let me try another type of beer. And then the same thing with rum. Is some rums are just a gateway to open the doors, and you feel that you found something else, which is getting you closer to paradise, right?
Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, I mean, that's it. We try and set just a bit more premium than your regular kind of supermarket or kind of easy accessible rums. So it's sort of, if people drink those supermarket rums for a period of time, they tend to want to then treat themselves or get a Christmas present or get something a bit more expensive. So that's where we come in, and people can try our rums and a lot of our other brands that are in London and the US and the Caribbean that are like better quality rums than you get at the lower end. So they're kind of like gateway rums, like you're saying. So it's not the worst thing.
So not everybody starts with a Porsche, right? You first start with your Toyota Camry or your used car, and then hopefully you work more, and then you buy something better. And there's people that they're like, eventually they are able to afford a Porsche or not a Porsche, right? But
well, if they're a pirate, they could steal a Porsche, couldn't they?
Exactly.
There we go. But yeah.
But you share this image. I'm sure there's a lot more that you have this on your presentation when you talking about pirates and the industry of rum.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, rum for centuries has been used as currency. So obviously, rum, when it was first created, you'd have I mean, it was created by accident pretty much. I think molasses was left out in a barrel in Jamaica or something, or Barbados, and it fermented, and then all that, as so they say. But yeah, as soon as that became a byproduct of the sugar making in the Caribbean, it just became second currency to the gold. So people could trade in the rum, and obviously it's sterile, so you can keep it on the boat. It's not going to go off if all your food goes rancid, your water goes off. Like rum, theoretically could keep sailors alive for a couple more weeks at sea. Maybe, don't quote me on that, but maybe a week. But having the rum, it's full of energy. It's like a shot of Red Bull almost for the sailors. It warms them up. It gives them energy in a small dose format, and like keeps them going on. So it became a big part of not just pirate life, of all kind of naval, all sailing life. It's so intrinsically tied to that. So obviously pirates were plundering naval vessels, and they had rum, so they'd steal the treasure, they'd steal the rum, and that was a good day's work. So in islands like Roatan, where we found Pirates Grog, were good safe havens for the pirates, because they were away from the trade wind. So the pirates could come out like board a ship, like a French or English ship, take all the treasure, take any men that wanted to join their crew, throw the rest overboard, and then they'd sail back round to Roatan, and they'd be away from the trade wind, so that they wouldn't get chased by the bigger ships like of the navy, because they could get stuck there with the wind for weeks. So there's a period between like 1550 and 1700 where Roatan was intermittently occupied, I think, by the British or the Spanish, but generally it was fairly unoccupied. So there was maybe up to 5,000 pirates at one time that called Roatan their home. So it was it was a pretty cheeky little pirate island for a bit, till the war on pirates kind of put a stop to that.
You mentioned that you also lived in or went to Madagascar, right? And then because there is a tradition, or one of the last places that you can find pirate related things.
Yeah, it's so it's a really interesting story. Obviously, most people think of the Caribbean with pirates, and if you actually go down to the tip of Africa, you've got Madagascar, you've got Reunion, and Mauritius at the end, and those three islands on the route for the boats that were coming down from India round the tip of Africa and back up to Europe, specifically Britain, obviously with a connection to India. So there was a period where that was all owned by French people, the military, and they'd hijack English boats as they were coming around the tip of Africa from Mauritius. And after a while, like maybe 20 or 30 years, the British got annoyed with that and invaded Mauritius. So it became a British island. But there's actually a little island called Ile Sainte Marie off the coast of Madagascar. And that's everyone there is supposed to be a descendant of pirates. It's the last known pirate graveyard. It's the only known pirate graveyard in the world. And it's so piratey, basically. You're in the mangroves, and there's a rocky road that you can walk across to get to this like little marooned island, and it only comes up at like low tide. So you walk across at low tide and go up, and there's a graveyard up there with pirates and some of the preachers and some people that died of malaria up there. But it's a really beautiful setting, and you can see all that across the bay. There it's it used to, I think Captain Kidd was supposedly a frequenter of the island. There is a gravestone with Captain Kidd written on it, but it's supposed to be a fake. So apparently he got hung and tarred on the Thames in London as an example. So yeah, it might have been nicer to be buried in Ile Sainte Marie in Madagascar, to be honest.
Oh, it would have been super nice.
Yeah, a little bit better.